Hello, everybody. This is James Ward, the founder of ETC Labs. Today, I'm going to, give a speech about the DeFi and next generation of money. We are going to discuss a little bit about the benefit of DeFi, the effect of the stable coins in finance, and more things. Just give a quick background for myself. I'm the CEO and founder of Digital Finance Group. I have been an investor in the crypto industry for the past 5 years. We started trading Bitcoin stuff around 5 years ago and buy different kind of mainstream crypto assets on the secondary market. We also run the venture capital funds, invest heavily into the different kind of startups in the Valley and also in other countries, including Brave, LedgerX, Circle, Ripple, Bezos, and others. We overall we generate pretty good returns on top of the fund. Besides that, we think operation is also very important. We start operating the ETC lab and ETC core in 2018. It's ETC Labs is an incubator which support and invest into applications built on top of the ETC network. ETC core is the only core dev team managing the ETC protocol and make sure the infrastructure and the protocol of Ethereum Classic is very strong. So overall, it's kind of like a mini version of Ethereum Foundation plus consensus, but only to Ethereum Classic. Another interesting project we are working on right now is called Matrix Exchange, spot cryptocurrency exchange. Being regulated by Abu Dhabi government is in ADGM. We just got a second official license from the government this April. So overall, we are being both investor and kind of entrepreneurs for the startups in the crypto industry for the past 5 years. We're fully committed and try to contribute more things to this industry. Today I'm going to share a little bit about my understanding about DeFi and what is happening in the industry right now. And as you know, the DeFi is pretty hot, discussed, heated probably in the past year, especially recently. We can see both the number of the token locked on the Ethereum network and also that total cap valuation of the DeFi tokens goes up a lot. So I think this is really a topic that was discussed in the crypto industry. So I will split this into three different categories. The first is the current status of the DeFi project, especially within different industries like DEX, lendings, derivatives, and others. The second, I want to discuss a little bit in more details about stable coins and for this sector, and this is very important and in the DeFi area as well. The third, I want to talk a little bit about when we're looking forward, what is ETC role inside it, what we can do to help make sure the DeFi ecosystem become better. Yeah, what is, the first question will be very straightforward. What is DeFi? It's like enable kind of like a decentralizations for like a peer-to-peer payment system to automated loans to the USD package stable coins and others. So it's kind of like to easily understand this. It's kind of like you put a financial service in a decentralized way, right? Compared to, let's say compared to centralized finance service, what is the benefit? So I conclude 3 points for this. The first is you can basically it's executed by the smart contract. You don't need a centralized service to execute the deals for you. So it's kind of like a easy and it's easy and good because it's like a programmability is important here. The second, I would say immutability, because basically if you use a centralized service, you can always basically change the data, right? If you use a fully decentralized protocols, then immutability is very important to make sure that all the transaction won't be just go back and all the transactions there. So that's important really a thing of the, and a good thing for DeFi. The second, I would say interoperability. There, you can probably, see very little, cooperation between different centralized financial service. They all compete with each other. However, on DeFi side, you can see a lot of players work together to build things, and that is also benefit the ecosystem. Eventually, will benefit the users as well. What is the, the use cases for DeFi? I concluded like a probably I conclude a stock project here, like make it out for DAI for stable coin and make it out for lending. We have ADX cables for DAX. We have others for bond lending like Compound, DYDX. Overall, the financial service you see in your day, like a bank, like a, exchange, whatever. If it makes sense, you can put it into a decentralized way. I think that's a great, DeFi use cases. But when we take a look at this picture, what is the DeFi value right now? You can see clearly the, the lending is dominating the market. You see two big projects, Maker and Compound, have like close to combined together have $1 billion valuations. The rest is relatively small derivatives, stable coins, and DEX will, kind of like is like goes after that. I think one important reason for this is like, the blockchain itself, the protocol itself is still, at least right now, it's not going to solve the scalability issue, at least right now. So it probably takes like 2-3 years to do that, but at least right now, it's the problem has been solved. So based on that lending activity, you really don't need a high TPS per second. You're okay for waiting for 5 minutes for get a loan, right? But for tradings, especially for quant tradings, it is, even a second is too much for you for doing the, high frequency tradings. So I guess that's the really important reasons based on the, the blockchain and the scalability issues right now. So I think that's the reason why lending is, kind of like the biggest use cases right now on the blockchain network. But once we solve it, I think we will definitely see more use cases. For the total user, there are overall like 600,000 of users for the DeFi. DAI MakerDAO project have around like 400,000 users, like 2/3 of the overall users, which just make a lot of sense because once you see other industry, the number one player will dominate probably 50 to 70% of the market share, which make a lot of sense. And but it's interesting to see Compound recently really grow up so quickly. So there will be more like competitions in the DeFi industry as well. The next topic I want to discuss is what is the major difference we can, if we compare DeFi to CeFi, what is the major difference? I mean, from my understanding, the biggest is like, what are you backed by? For the DeFi, basically your platform, your service is backed by technology. For CeFi, it's backed by a large institutional or large enterprise. So that's the difference. It's actually very hard for you to say which one's good, which one's bad, right? But I think different users maybe have different appetite, have different ideas about it. To conclude, the good things for DeFi is like it's trustless, permissionless, transparency. It's it's put on a blockchain. That's the public blockchain. That's the benefit of it. But to be honest, once you face the reality, there are a lot of downside right now. So at least the liquidity is not big enough, and so far it's very hard for the smart contract to execute very complicated logic. So right now, still we have to improve that. But for the CeFi, it's actually the opposite. You have the fiat conversions, cross-chain exchange, and easy to use and get enough liquidity. However, the downside of CeFi, once you have, you may have the centralizations that create a problem for you. Not only about the security, but also maybe for the small retail customers, they will not provide good enough service to you. The one important thing I want to emphasize is for the centralized service, they not every customer is treated equally, but however, on a DeFi, this is a very important feature that every customer is basically being treated equally. Yeah, that's the upside and downside for DeFi and CeFi. So I think for probably retail customers, once have full knowledge to use the DeFi service, it's probably the best way to use it. For CeFi, if you like an institutional customer, or I think goes to CeFi is probably a good option for you. A little bit of comparison about the DEX and the centralized exchange. As I mentioned before, because of the scalability issue and because of the centralized exchanges being so big and doing so well, I mean, there's a clear, huge gap between two. You can see that the DEX volume for 2020 for the first half of the year is going up 50% from the 90 from the last year in total, which means that this year you can basically do 3x. But still, the half year volume is close to a daily volume of one single exchange, Binance. So still overall, I think there are a lot of the huge gap between DeFi, the DEX and the centralized exchanges that huge, and you can see that that's the Caber, that probably one of the best top decentralized exchange. Their trading volume is probably 0.15% of the volume of Binance. So I guess once we solve the liquidity issue in all different kind of, by whatever solutions this will change. I mean, the centralized exchange, at least partially of the market share of centralized exchange will be taken over by decentralized exchange in the future. But it may take probably 3 to 5 years. It's not an easy and a quick thing we will see recently. Another interesting thing I want to discuss a little bit is about the Compound MakerDAO, the two biggest DeFi project in the industry right now. Interesting, you can see the market cap and lock volumes are all close to like a $500 million. It's probably Compound recently grew so big. I mean, it market cap and lock volume probably goes up above like $1 billion. But I see interestingly one thing is that in a traditional way, like a centralized lending platform, usually you don't give such a high market cap for the locked volume. It's usually like 1/3 of it or 1/4 of it. But what you can see here for the decentralized lending platform, it's almost like a 1-to-1, right? So which means the investor and the capital is really taking is see the future of DeFi for the future of the decentralized lending platform, seeing this as a great kind of potential to growth in the future. So I think that's a proof from a capital perspective. A little bit comparison between Compound MakerDAO. MakerDAO generate DAI by leveraging tokens as collateral and earn interest on DAI. Compound a little bit different, earn interest on the tokens and borrow tokens to invest, use, and short sale. For supported tokens, like I think Compound is like adding more tokens to MakerDAO. However, but MakerDAO, as far as I know, is still in the process of doing that. One thing to emphasize is Compound is distributes native governance token Compound to token borrowers and suppliers, which is a unique function MakerDAO don't have. Second, enough about the lending and DEX. I want to talk about dig into a little bit about the stablecoin and what will be the future of it. Stablecoin, why we need stablecoin? What is the benefit, right? The first I would say the 3 points too. The first I would say that security. You are built on top of the blockchain network, so it's like a secure. Basically, if you hold fiat for the from the large country, that's probably fine. But if you hold some fiat from the small country, it usually goes to a lot of problem. It's like an unstable policy or whatever. So security is really a point here. The second, I would say the instant processing. You can easily transfer the stable coins to other people, which is a very, very important feature of the stable coins. if you use US dollars, US country, that should be fine. But if you are doing cross-border remittance, you transfer money from the one country to other countries, you go to the whole SWIFT system. It probably take like a 3 to 5 days, spend a crazy high fees on top of that. It doesn't make any sense for you. By the way, the remittance market over a year is close to $1 trillion. So it's really a big market that stablecoin could target to solve the problem. The third, I would say, compared to not fiat, but compared to Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, if you don't want any risk about taking the volatility uh, uh, risk, then you can have stablecoins. You don't need to, it will prevent you from taking risk about holding Bitcoins for Bitcoin's price goes down and up. It's actually a good way for you to do remittance. Maybe, you certainly did just believing the value of the fiat, but you don't want, use cryptocurrency. That's, actually a good thing for you to do. There are three kind of like stable coins. The first is, as we know, fiat and commodity collateralized. Usually, when we can see it's basically all US dollar collateralized, but there are a few like a new projects doing like backed by gold and others. The second one was the crypto collateralized, usually being a decentralized platform like MakerDAO. They use DAI and backed by all different kind of cryptocurrency or a basket of different cryptocurrency. The third is non-collateralized. It's usually you use a algorithm to make sure the price of the coins is stable, and you will try to increase or decrease the supplies of the tokens on a basis. It's pretty popular back to 2017, but I think there are very few projects being successful. But recently, it's actually I think the collateralized stablecoin become to dominate the market, but there are still a few non-collateralized. But since it's not that popular, I think the market share goes down a little bit. Top 20 stablecoins, clearly Tether still dominate market, 80% of market share, pretty crazy, and still dominate the whole stablecoin market. A little bit compare about the Tether and the USDC and the PAX, number one, number two, and number three. Tether is 10 times larger than the second one, 30 times larger than the third one. Still crazy, dominance for the stablecoin market. You can see that clearly from the liquidity issues, Tether is much better than others. And that is probably the most important feature why Tether is being so successful. For the rest, for the license and regulated stablecoin, you can see it's all have all the benefit about, all the functionality of about public audit, trust transparency, purchase redemption process, and others. So these are all based because you are being regulated and you are being licensed. That's the hard requirement for you. So I mean, my prediction is that since basically right now the market of crypto is still a retail market, so I think Tether will still dominate the market. But if the mainstream capital moving into the cryptocurrency market, then they definitely have no choice but to choose licensed cryptocurrency, licensed stablecoin. If that happens, I mean the market share of USDC, PAX, and others will probably go up and try to at least get more market share, get part of the market share of Tether. It actually depends what is the the structure of the investor, whether it's a retail dominance or it's an institutional dominance market. Great. So enough discussion about the DeFi, the lendings, or and the DEX and stablecoins. Let's see how we can contribute, how the DeFi industry will look like in the future. I got like a full prediction here. That's my personal opinion. The first is like a DeFi development will redefine the finance industry. It sounds like obvious, right? It's like why I think DeFi. One important fact is compared to all industry in the traditional world, finance industry is probably the single largest industry. So you have like gold as a value of $8 trillion, stock like 10 times larger than that, derivatives 100 times larger than that. So the finance industry overall, it's really a huge industry that in the traditional world. So when you put it on the decentralized ways to do that, if it becomes successful, it will kind of like being such a big thing that nobody can ignore. So that's why I'm being so excited about DeFi, and because the market you can reach out to it's so big. The second is I will have probably two predictions about the stablecoins. I would say non-credible stablecoins could make an important comeback. I think back to 2017, there are a few great projects came out, but really hard to continue and being successful. But I do think there's a value for the non-credibilized stablecoins, and it's actually backed by technology, not by kind of still by other fiat. It's actually a very good solutions, but it's really hard to design the algorithm, design the mechanism. But if someone is successful doing that, it will be a big project, an important project in the future. So it do have values. Another thing I want to mention is regulated stablecoins should begin to dominate the market. That's because my analyzed before as well. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, the mainstream capitals, institutional clients start to move into the crypto industry, and that will help the licensed stablecoins to become bigger and start to dominate the market. The last thing I want to say about DeFi is not about application level, but about infrastructure level. Solving the scalability issue is the crucial and the single biggest problem for the blockchain industry. And if that is being, you have all the solutions right now for layer 2 Bitcoins, you have a Lightning network. For Ethereum right now, you are doing sharding. For ETC, we are kind of doing some research on rollup. You have all different kind of solutions, either on layer 1 or layer 2. But we are already doing this for years. If we can solve the scalability issues in the future, probably not in a year. I mean 3 years, 4 years. If we solve that, then we definitely will see more use cases being deployed on top of the blockchain network, especially in the finance industry. Like I just mentioned before, DEX can work, NSX can work as well. We will definitely see more application use cases. So as a protocol, ETC as protocol is fully committed to solving the scalability issues with all the other mainstream crypto protocols as well. What we do and how can we, what kind of things we do, what kind of benefit for ETC, how can we support the DeFi ecosystem? A few, a great achievement by us is the first, we do 3 hard forks and upgrades, like Atlantis hard fork, Phoenix hard fork this June, and also the other project like EVM, ARVM. These are all, create a solid foundation for the ETC protocol and make sure we are more comparable with the Ethereum protocol. That will benefit all the use cases a lot. Once you have a much more solid, infrastructure, that's a solid foundation for you to build different kind of use cases on top of it. And as I mentioned, we are doing research on rollup and others try to solve the scalability issues. We will definitely give more update once we have more progress on that part. The second, I would say, we have been partnered with a lot of companies and tools, right? Let's say the Block Cloud offer the ETC service, and the Chainlink integrate with Ethereum Classic this February, and we cooperate with Whiteblock and others. With all the different kind of important tools, this is the unique ways for you to link the application and infrastructure. So once we have more bigger ecosystem, it will definitely help and make sure people, the either developers and also the users are much easier to use the service on top of the the network. Also, we're doing a bunch of other partnerships I want to mention. For example, OpenGSN is the project. We work together, try to reduce the transaction fee on the ETC network, which is an important thing. Right now, a lot of transaction fees, like say on Bitcoin, is too much, but ETC is still very very cheap for you to make a transaction on top of the the network, and open GSN is right. It also help us to reduce it a little bit more. Gitcoin's an important platform for us to, uh, build a much strong and solid developers community. We give a lot of bounties on Gitcoin to have all the developers to work on the ETC protocol. Also important to our ecosystem as well. Meanwhile, we also try to promoting an environment to create end users applications. Uh, we are in the discussion with a lot of top tier stablecoin and lending project in the DeFi industry right now. See whether we can cooperate with each other. We will give more announcement in the in the Q3 this year. And at that time, I think the older ETC users will have more application to use. I can see a lot of, let's say, what I can see a lot of demand from the miner side. They don't want to sell ETC, but they want their fiat to pay the electricity fees. They can always use probably the lending platform in the ETC network to do that in the future. So that's actually, we definitely want a better and bigger ecosystem for ETC in the future. Yeah, that's basically what we do for some classic infrastructure tools and applications. We have all the progress, but we are continuing fully committed to the protocols, and we are fully committed to building a strong DeFi ecosystem on top of it. And let's see what we can do for the second half of the year. I want to say thank you for listening to my speech. You can always try to connect me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm there. If you have any question, if you have any interesting discussion you want to have with me, please ping me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer all the questions. I'm happy to discuss all the partnership or any question about it. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's all from my speech, and thank you very much.